you remember this guy? He was putting on how to profit from squatting in the United States while the United States government gives you all kinds of money and clothes, housing, food. Yeah, he may have been a member of the Venezuelan military intelligence department. Yeah, he was a spy. Yeah, here in the United States as an illegal. He's now held by ICE. And let's get into it. Here we go. So, federal authorities believe that the migrant TikTok influencer who became a social media sensation for encouraging others to squat in U.S. homes was a sergeant. Yes, he was a sergeant in the Venezuela's military intelligence unit before he illegally entered the country, a federal source told the Post. Maybe he didn't have a real high-ranking position. Who knows? He doesn't exactly seem like the sharpest tool in the shed, but he amassed a lot of followers and quickly because he exploited his kid, for one thing. I mean, poor little girl. I mean, all of a sudden she's, she's daddy's pawn in his game he basically came right out and said, you know what? You don't have to work hard in the United States. They'll just give you everything you need. And then you can squat in homes and then you can profit by taking them and selling them. And it was just this convoluted mess. Leonel Moreno, who went viral for bragging about all the money he was making in government benefits, was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in March for skipping out on the terms of his probation after he crossed the southern border illegally. What? He didn't show up for his hearing? How come? Yeah, maybe he knew they were going to figure out. Ooh, yeah. This guy has former military background as a spy. Who knows, right? I mean, who knows? But the whole thing it doesn't look good, does it? No, it doesn't look good. And then the bottom line is we don't know who the vast majority of these folks are that have come into the United States, have been paroled, and just let go. Hey, here's your hearing. Hope you show up. This guy didn't show up. Why are all the rest going to show up? Yeah, it makes no sense, does it? Just have an open border policy. Just let a bunch of fentanyl through, a little trafficking, sex trafficking. Who knows? Let's just let it all rip. Shenanigans for years. Yeah. And then wasn't Kamala Harris? Wasn't she the unofficial southern border czar? She was. Yeah. And she did about as good a job as you could expect from a DEI hire, right? I mean, just look at her record as Attorney General in California. Yeah. All righty then. Since the arrest, intelligence officers have taken a closer look at Moreno's history and his life in Venezuela, noting that he allegedly was a sergeant of Venezuelan General Directorate of Military Intelligence, according to the Homeland Security source. Yeah. And you couldn't work that out the first time you caught him? Yeah. So many folks in the United States that have stuff in their background that they shouldn't be here. And they don't qualify for asylum. Such a big percentage of the folks that are coming here are just, well, it seems like a good time because, Biden's letting us all in. And then Biden has to step down. But he's still going to be our president. He's not able to run for another term because, he's got crazy cognitive decline, but we're still going to let him be leader of the free world. I mean, that's kind of what we're saying, right? Who is running the show? Who is behind the curtain? I want to know. So Moreno, 27, he crossed the border illegally into Eagle Pass, Texas on April 23rd, 2022, and was released into the country, but skipped out on required check-ins with ICE, which led to his arrest. Now, this whole notion that we're going to give you a little piece of paper with a date on it, and we're going to need you to follow those instructions because we know that you are a good human being. You wouldn't try and pull any shenanigans. You wouldn't come into the United States and start bad talking how easy it is to squat in somebody's home and then take that person's home. You wouldn't do that, would you? No, we know you wouldn't. It's all over the interweb, right? TikTok specifically. He was a TikTok influencer. Yeah, he had his kid on there, had his wife in there. Information from foreign countries is often hard to come by for border agents trying to protect the country from potential threats. We don't know who is come in, and we just parole them into the United States. We'd have that policy, that remain in Mexico. Yeah, you know what? No problem. Having you work your way through the immigration thing, and we'll have a few hearings for you. But you can't stay here. You can't stay in the United States. Well, Sean, what if they're trying to escape violence? You know what? There's a lot of violent countries all across the United States. There's some all across the world, not in the United States. There's violence in the United States. Chicago always being a prime, St. Louis, prime, Kansas City, prime examples. Memphis, we could just go on and on and on. Seattle, pound for pound, Seattle really punches up with its criminal activity. Property crime, Seattle, numero uno in the United States. We are really, things are really looking up for Seattle. Now, Seattle's got a lot of good things going for it, but it's like a lot of blue, big, liberal cities. It's got some real issues, right? Got some real issues. But back to our dude from Venezuela. When it comes to Venezuela, the task is nearly impossible of figuring out who's who, talking to their government, because the government there in Venezuela, they're unwilling to communicate with U.S. authorities. Several Border Patrol sources have told the Post, and I have heard this as well. Venezuela has so many issues going on, just basically overrun, just run over. You just got gangs. You've got, all kinds of bad actors. And so then why wouldn't we let just, thousands and thousands and thousands of folks from Venezuela just come willy-nilly into the country? And now we're seeing kind of the end result of that. If you bring enough million people into the country, into the United States, you're going to have shenanigans. And that's what we're witnessing. And sometimes that means people are being assaulted and then murdered. And that seems to be happening a fair amount, right? So you got to do something here. You got to do something. And border security being a big one. And that's where Kamala Harris, I think with, you got Proposition 47 in California. That was, during her era as Attorney General. Then you've got her, sitting in as the border czar. That didn't go well. It didn't even go anywhere. She didn't even do anything. I think she went to the border uno time, right? The whole thing is just so preposterous. And when she talks to us like we're a 3-year-old, we kind of realize, this person is not really capable of doing all that much. But you know what? Let's just prop her up there because the other guy is so bad, he can't get through a debate without everybody understanding over the last 3.5 years that his party has been lying to us about his ability to lead the free world. Yeah, not there. But we're going to just let him ride out the remaining months on his term because, we like Joe and everybody just loves Joe. So, yeah, because that other guy, that orange man bad guy, he is horrible. Even though he gets winged in the ear because of terrible Secret Service. I wanted to get into Border Patrol and protect from terrorists. And it's like, yeah, well, I probably let terrorists in the country. Moreno remains in custody in the 𝗥𝗘𝗓𝗏 County Jail in Ohio and is set to see an immigration judge today. I hope he gets thrown out. I hope he gets tossed back to Venezuela. And he gets what he deserves. This guy was a loser, just straight up loser. However, he's been having trouble coming up with money to hire an attorney, so the judge presiding over his immigration case has kept delaying his appearance. I thought he was loaded. I thought he had wads of cash that he would show to TikTok. He had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars that he would just, flip through. And then, maybe not. I thought you had thousands and thousands to your name. You get an attorney in there. Here's some things that this knucklehead came up with. I didn't cross the Rio Grande. I work like a slave, Moreno said in one Instagram clip while waving around $100 bills. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just waving them around. Just, I got the hundreds. You don't. We got money. Yes, we do. We got money. How about you? Right? That's what he was doing. So I hope that guy gets thrown out of the country. There's a lot of people that deserve to be thrown out of the country. You know what a crazy story is that's kind of being kicked around is Chicago. Chicago prepares for upwards of 25,000 additional migrants arriving ahead of the Democratic National Convention. That's in Chicago. They're cleaning Chicago up to get it ready for all these important Democrats because they're going to have their deal. And Kamala Harris is going to do a lot of cackling and talking about nonsense as if you're a 3-year-old. Going to have that happen. But there's this rumor of upwards of like 25,000 additional migrants. Where are they going to come from in such a short period of time? I mean, I know where they're going to come from, but this rumor, it's been kicking around for a while. And it's like, okay, but Chicago's already taken about 45,000. You're telling me that almost more than half of that is going to come in before the Democratic National Convention? I mean, I think that would be hilarious if they did, because they're going to have no place for them. Chicago's basically been shutting down its migrant centers and just telling everybody, you got to go elsewhere. Go over to Denver. Go to DC. Go to Philly. It'll work out fine there for you. Go to New York City. They've been telling them to go anywhere but Chicago, just like Denver has done. Yeah, why don't you guys go to Chicago? Why don't you guys go to New York City? It'll all be good. So this huge number of migrants supposed to come. I mean, if that does happen, yeah, it'll be entertaining to see. Meanwhile, we've got Greg Abbott doubling down. He orders triple strand razor wire on the U.S.-Mexico border. So triple strand razor wire. From what I've figured out, you have two rolls of the razor wire on the bottom, then you have a third one kind of resting in between, the others two up on top. Is that triple strand razor wire? I figured it would be the way that it was actually twined together, the single line. But, my razor wire skills, I'm a real estate guy. There hasn't been a lot of real estate where I've had to recognize, you know what? They really need some triple razor wire. Just not really a thing. You got one strand of razor wire up on top on a commercial, kind of development that's trying to keep the riffraff out, trying to keep the shenanigans out from the parking lot, whatever. That always seems to do the trick. It's getting through one single row of razor wire. I mean, you get stuck on that stuff. It's just like, it's like Velcro, you're sticking yourself with the big Velcro pad. I'm just going to hook up next to this. But Greg Abbott, he's gone down the triple strand. He is just not doubling down. He is literally tripling down. Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered extra razor wire to reinforce the U.S.-Mexico border following President Joe Biden's decision to pull out of the race for the presidency and endorse Kamala Harris. All right, that's fine. You can throw up there whomever you want. You can take down the leader of the free world for the last 3.5 years that we've been telling you does not belong there because of his cognitive mental decline. You can take that dude down and throw out Kamala, being possibly the next thing. But here's what I'm going to do. He ordered engineers to install triple strand razor. He's just literally tripling down on this whole concept of, well, you know what? If the federal government isn't going to secure our border, if the federal government isn't going to secure our state border, which are one and the same, then yeah, screw those guys. We'll just take matters into our own hands. We'll take over. Eagle Pass will take over the park, and this is what we're going to do. It comes after the Texas Republican threatened to triple the razor wires and increase military resources on the U.S.-Mexico border following Biden's withdrawal. And he's doing it. The GOP lawmaker said in a previous post on X, Joe Biden has now endorsed and fully supports his border czar, Kamala Harris, to be the Democratic candidate for president. I think I will need to triple the border wall, razor wire barriers, and the National Guard on the border. No issues with that. If it's a matter of security and if the federal government won't do it, if Customs and Border Protection won't do the job that they were hired to do, meaning they basically just let everybody in, they arrest them, which just means, hey, could I get your name and number, please? Because we need to put it down on your paperwork so that you can show up for a hearing down the road in 2031. Yeah, haven't seen so many of the indications that the court hearings are that far out for immigration, but they're out a bunch of years. And by the time those years pass, none of these folks are going to be showing up for these hearings. They got that one little piece of paper, and they've had no mailbox, no forward mailing address for months, if not years. The whole system is just rigged to get a whole bunch of people in the country. I don't really know the end result. But you can recognize it in just, in big cities. You've got, massive amounts of people who are not working that are gaming the system. And we've let that all happen. And by we, I mean the big blue sanctuary virtue talking cities that thought this was the greatest thing ever, but are now kind of, yeah, you know what? Maybe we need to go down a different road because this has gotten really expensive. Chicago being a big, they've gone down the road of this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden, we need to reverse course. Let's go. Brandon Johnson realized, wow, if you bring them into your city, you're going to have to pay for them. And as much as you bitch to the federal government, they're not going to give you any handouts because if they start giving Chicago handouts, then they got to give it to all the virtue signaling big blue cities. Yeah. And how's that going to work out? Well, it hasn't for Chicago. It hasn't for New York City. It hasn't worked out for any of them. We've got a whole crew of illegals here in Seattle that are just getting bounced from one jurisdiction to another. They're in Kent. They're in the church, here, there, and everywhere. It's because everybody told them, oh, yeah, you can come to the United States. It's going to be great. You're just going to get, debit card, be loaded up, free food, free clothes, everything. You name it. We'll give you a work visa as soon as we can. And so many of these folks are still waiting on all those promises. And they came here based on those facts because whatever they had at home was way worse than sitting on the sidewalk here in the United States because at least they get free stuff here. In their home country, they might get killed, might get, bad things happen to them. Yeah. So 25,000 additional migrants ahead of the DNC. Is that going to happen? I don't know. All right. That's it for me. But this guy right here, yeah, he needs to get deported. You need to go away so you don't spew any of your nonsense anymore here in the United States. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.